Hello, my name's Friar John, and I'm really honored to be able to share with the youth here of Our Lady of Consolation with the youth group. I was hoping to meet you during Lent, to do a Lean Into Lent program, but that didn't work out so well because of COVID-19. So this is an option that I can bring some of the programming to you. So feel free to do some of these activities at home, and also maybe engage this topic a little deeper of leaning into Holy Week, because we're right around the corner from Holy Week. So first off, we're going to do some activities that sort of break open what it is that I'm looking for. So in the first activity is called staring with a glare. Okay, staring with a glare. When you stare at someone, and sometimes you can feel the stare of another. So we have two examples here, two wonderful helpers, Reese and Emma. And if you guys could stand up, and why don't we have Reese, you can face that direction, and Emma is going to be on this side. Is that the way you want to do it, or no? Opposite.
Yeah.
Opposite. Yeah. You turn around. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Reese. At one point, he's gonna stare at the back of Emma's head, and at that point, she's gonna feel it and whip around. Okay. So it's kind of like trying to feel someone stare at you. And it's a little bit of eerie sixth sense thing. So why don't we just start that? So we'll start on mark, get set, 3, 2, 1, go. That was at the same time. Let's do that again, because that was too perfect. Because sometimes you can really feel it, and you really stare with a deep concentration, like you are just really going after those hair follicles on her head. Okay?
All right.
Ready? We'll go 3, 2, 1. Do that again. Whoa, that was great. The timing was perfect. Okay, it's kind of the strange thing that you can feel someone's glare against you. We're going to do the next activity where we're going to have Emma, again, she's going to have her hands out like this. And Reese is going to concentrate on one arm or the other. And he's going to try to stalk up to her, and with his clipper, he's going to try to clip her arm. And she's going to try to drop that arm right before he does it. And the idea is you're trying to feel that concentrated effort on your arms. Let's try that again. We'll go 3, 2, 1. You ready to go? Whoa, he was going for that arm. Okay, try that again. Now do your 6-foot safety reacher and do that again, and be ready to pinch her sweatshirt. We're going to start 3, 2, 1. Go. Oh, that was the opposite one. Okay, let's do it one last time. One last time. And we'll see if that was a fluke or a 3, 2, 1, start. Oh, it was the opposite one. Okay, so it's like feeling the difference in one arm or the other. You guys are great examples. And I'd like to get into our topic at hand. What we're talking about is leaning into Holy Week. You know, Holy Week is an important time where we kind of get into Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and the Easter Vigil. And I want to have you imagine, if you will, that a friend invited you to their church. And the friend said, hey, I hope you're free Sunday, because I'd really like to show you our church. And you seem like a nice person. Why don't you come with? And so you go with them, and you go to this church, and the first thing you notice is the environment is all stainless steel. In fact, it looks like an empty kitchen, like an industrial-sized kitchen, and it feels a little cold inside. And they have a table right in the middle and all these metal chairs all the way around the outside. And so you kind of sit down and you're like, oh, it's kind of cold and creepy, all that stainless steel. And then you notice there's one huge chair that's right on top of the table in the center. And you're like, that's really weird. And you notice that they refer to themselves as people of the chair. And they have not only chairs as art, they have chairs as jewelry around their necklace. They have some of the ladies have chair earrings. And then they also have chairs in little charms around the bracelets. Oh my gosh, it's so strange to have all those chairs everywhere. And it's a little bit creepy. And you're thinking, gosh, what is this about? And then they ask for a volunteer, and a volunteer comes from the assembly, and they sit right in that central chair, and you realize, oh my gosh, this is a plugged-in chair. And the chair goes to an outlet, and it's plugged in the wall, and you realize, oh my gosh, we're going to be watching this person sitting in an electric chair, and it's going to be a witnessed capital punishment. We're going to watch this, and someone is going to have their life taken from them, and I'm watching this. I'm thinking, why am I here? Why did you invite me? What on earth? This is barbarian. What is going on here? Do you ever think that that's what someone sees and experiences the first time they come to a Christian church? I mean, think about it. They come to a Christian church and we see this cross and stations of the cross wrapped all the way around the church. There's 14 stations, and it's a bit gruesome, right? And then there's like this huge cross right behind the altar, and there's this body hanging there that's been nailed to the cross, Jesus. And it's a little off-putting. You're like, oh, this was like capital punishment back in the Roman days. This is what they used as a way to scare people into their obedience. So they wanted people to obey, and the Romans had the best devised method. They take a criminal, someone who broke the law, and then they would give them a terrible, terrible punishment and execution. And it was laid out so that it was the perfect, long-winded, difficult punishment, where they would have the person scourged, right, just like Jesus was, and he was whipped, and then he had to carry that cross. And we know the stations all so well. And he had to come to that final place of being hung on that cross. And you think of everything he went through. You know, people spit on him, people called him names. People whipped him, and he had to carry that beam, and then he was nailed to that wood of the cross. And I imagine that had to be overwhelming for him in that Garden of Gethsemane when he knew what it was going to happen. Because granted, he's fully divine, right? So he would have been able to foreshadow, this is obviously where this is going, and this is going to be my death. And like Pilate has washed his hands of the situation, I want nothing to do with this. And other people were jeering at him, saying, well, if you're the Son of God, why don't you call on all those angels to help you out and save you right now? But you're not calling on them, so obviously you're not the Son of God. And so they've kind of rationalized everything that's going to happen. And you think of just how this awful capital punishment was designed to suffocate the individual, right? That as they're hanging on the cross, they're trying to lift their upper body to take their body weight off their lungs. Because as soon as they sag like this, they're suffocating their lungs and they can't breathe. And so the quickest way to kill someone was to break the legs. They had no strength and muscle to lift the muscles over their lungs, and they would automatically suffocate. It was a horrendously painful execution, and a long time it would take. Jesus went pretty quick in 3 hours. And they say one of the reasons why was because the scourging was so miserable. That's why he fell 3 times. That's why he needed Simon, the Cyrene, to help him carry the cross. And it was so grueling for him that it was just beyond comparison of the day. You think about how we've neutralized it, and that we make the cross, well, pretty jewelry, beautiful liturgical experiences, wonderful songs. Lift high the cross. With these beautiful songs, right? And we even mark ourselves, with that cross. And it's just become so second nature that we forget everything that he went through and all that happened. And if he was fully divine, he probably knew what was coming. And I bet that human side of him was a little afraid. And he had to face that fear. Remember those one words on the cross? Lord, if you could take this cup away from me, please do so. And then at the end he says, well, if it's your will, let it be done, right? But he was worried and probably very afraid. And he faced that fear. If we're going to lean into this Holy Week, I would hope that we also can face our fears, because it's not an easy thing to face fears. And so as part of leaning in, I want to invite you to lean in to fear. Lean in to some of the things that will give you a little bit of fear. Why? Because, Proverbs chapter 3 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding, but in all your ways be mindful of him, and he will make straight your paths. So that when we lean in to that wonderful, trusting heart of the Lord, that we can accomplish great things. And that's what I'm inviting you to do, to lean on the Lord. But what are some things that you're afraid of? If you're a comedian, you know about embracing the bomb. And a bomb is like when you say a joke and nobody laughs. It's like completely silent, which is just terrifying for a comedian. Just be out there on stage and you say a joke. And their teaching and training, they have to embrace that. They have to welcome the bomb and the time when things just don't go right. So when things don't go right for you, what does that look like? And when things are like you plan it in your mind and then it doesn't happen, what is that one thing that you have to kind of make peace with it? You got to embrace it. Because if that terror takes over, you'll never go on stage again. There's no way you'll ever get on stage as a comedian. And you think about just those things that the Lord wants you to do for you to delight in. And it takes a little bit of trusting to let the Lord guide you there. Jesus was guided to where he didn't want to go. And he just had to trust his heavenly Father. And so we're learning to trust in Jesus to face those fears. Psalm 37, verse 4 says, find your delight in the Lord, who will give you your heart's desire. That's what I want you to experience, is get your heart's desire. And it's so exciting to face your fears. Now, I'm not talking about like phobias. Like if you're afraid of heights and you get white and you like can't breathe because you're like looking at the depths of the Grand Canyon, you're like afraid of heights, like, no, I can't move. I don't want you to address that phobia. But I'm talking about like mild fears, like things that you would naturally resist. Like what is something that you might resist on a daily basis? I think of like cleaning your bedroom. I resist cleaning my bedroom. And I remember when Mom would ask me, hey, it's time to clean your bedroom. I would think, okay, if I just pretend I didn't hear her, I could get like maybe 15 more minutes. So I just ignore and just be in my own little world. And then I get that call again. I don't hear the vacuum cleaner running, honey. You better be cleaning your room. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get just a few more minutes. And then you let that stretch another 15 minutes and like continue the activity you're doing or keep being on the computer with the computer game. And you're like, okay, if I think I've got, maybe she'll just forget. And if I just ignore it, it won't happen. And I'm resisting that one thing, right? And then there's like that crash on your bedroom door. And your mom is there. And she's got that particular voice that says, you better do it now. And he's like, okay. And then you're like, and now it's been an hour, right? And she's like, if you would have started an hour ago, you would have been done 30 minutes ago. And you're like, why did I resist that? Why do I resist the very things of things that could be really good for you? And you might be afraid to face an angry, wrathful mother. That would be terrifying too. So maybe there's things that you resist. That's a really good way to see, what is that about? Why am I resisting that one thing? What am I so fearful? It might be like homework, because if I do my homework, then I'll be a straight-A student. If I'm a straight-A student, then I'm going to be one of those. What is that? What are you afraid of being a straight-A student? Why is that something that you're resisting? Resistance can be really good to let you know this is what you're afraid of. Now, resistance to preserve yourself and to save your life, that's a pretty healthy resistance too. I think of skiing. I love skiing. And the thing about skiing is the only way to learn in skiing is to fall many, many times. You have to put your falls in constantly. If you don't put your falls in, you're not going to learn anything. And the great thing about skiing is the more you lean into the fall line, the more secure you are going down the hill. So the fall line is as if you drop a rock and let it roll down the hill, that's the path of the fall line. It's like the most direct way down. And you want to point your skis right there and then lean into it. If you don't lean into it, you're going to be on your tails and fall every time. If you lean too far, you go over the tops of your skis and you become a tumbling avalanche going down the mountain. And there's this sweet spot right in the middle. And ski racers know it. The ski racers know that sweet spot and they're leaning into it because that's going to take them the fastest way right down like a rocket down the hill. And in skiing, they call it pushing the envelope. An envelope, you think of like when you open an envelope, it kind of has that little pocket in there. And that's like a pocket or a fissure right on the side of a mountain. And these envelopes are about the width of your skis. And you're like, how on earth would you ski this little chute no longer than my skis? And it's the same principle. You lean into straight downhill, and then you just let your skis go back and forth in the air and do hockey stop, and then in the air, hockey stop. Oh, it's thrilling. It's actually exhilarating. And one thing I love about skiing is you can always go a little faster than you went before. You can always go on a hill a little steeper. You can always go that extra place that scares you and push yourself. And that's what I'd like you to do is maybe look at a fear that you have and to push yourself. Psalm 37 verse 5 says, commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. So what are the things that you find yourself resisting? What are the things that you find yourself, gosh, I'd really like to face and confront this fear? And I think God calls us to be fearless, and God calls us to face those fears. You might ask yourself, gosh, why am I being held back? Why am I not going toward this particular area? There's something beautiful about when someone faces a fear and they overcome it. Oh my gosh, it's like a marvelous drug, an addiction, because you just accomplished a fear. You're like, I feel so fantastic on top of the world. I think of one girl, Jessica Watson, 16-year-old, who circumnavigated the globe sailing a ship unassisted from anyone else. I mean, how does a 16-year-old do that? And she had this dream at 13 years old that she was going to do it. And she went out and did it and faced her fears. And would you know that sailboat is almost 40 feet long, turtled 3 times. I mean, completely flipped over in the water, and everything got turned upside down in the storm. And she had to put everything back together after those storms. And she went all the way around the globe and set a record. Jessica Watson from Australia. What an inspiration, just someone who faced those fears. So I want to ask you, what can you do to overcome a fear? Do you know someone that overcame a fear? And maybe you could tell that story to a friend. Or maybe more fun is to share an opportunity when you bombed. When you get up and you expect to have this great joke, and you tell all your friends, and the punchline is there, and you deliver, and they're all looking at you like, was that a joke? What was that? I don't really get it. When did you bomb? And tell that story, because those aren't really funny stories to tell on ourselves. And if you were to face a fear, what would you have to do this next week in order to do it? Fears are kind of fun to confront. There's that eerie side of fears, like sometimes you can feel someone staring at you. That's kind of creepy, right? And sometimes you can feel like someone is following you or stalking you. You can feel it. It's like, oh, that's weird. There's something going on. I really don't. And you can sense it. And what a beautiful thing to confront some of those fears. I had as many of you know the car that I drive. The car that I drive has the Pope on it, and they know, oh yeah, there's a Catholic, right? And so I'm driving the Pope mobile at a gas station. I'm filling up with gas, and this guy starts walking towards me. He gets out of his sports car, and his shoulders are about as big as a linebacker. And I'm like looking up to him. He goes, oh, good, a Catholic. Have I got some jokes for you? And he goes and tells me one joke after the other that's vile, profane, none of which I can repeat, and they're all about pedophile priests. Priests that have broken boundaries with children and just messed up. And they are the most awful jokes. And he's shouting them as he's walking towards me. And I'm thinking, this guy is going to pummel me into the asphalt. And I'm just going to be run over by all his treatment. And people at the fuel island are now hearing what he's saying. And he's talking really loud. And they're starting to grab a crowd. And people are starting to walk close. And I thought, you know, I got to hear this guy out. So I put the fuel nozzle down and I met him. And he went through his whole routine and I said, oh, that's bad. Oh, that's worse. Oh my gosh, that was an awful joke. And it was amazing how vile each one got, worse and worse and worse. And finally he ran out of material. And I said, here, I got a card for you. This is a prayer card. He goes, no, I'm not a Catholic. No, I don't do that Catholic thing. I go, oh, that's okay. All you have to do is be able to read. Can you read? Sure, you can read. Here, this is a card. Here, read it. It's got a prayer on it. Everybody can read a prayer. So he reads the prayer, and he takes it with him, and he goes, well, you're a lot nicer than the last priest I saw. I said, the last priest you saw? He goes, yeah, he drove off cussing and swearing and wouldn't even hear me out. He goes, I'm impressed. I've come to find out he's a former truck driver. I'm a former truck driver, and we start talking shop. It was beautiful, but had I not confronted that fear and just hearing this guy out, I would have missed that opportunity to hear the things that we had in common. So whatever that fear might be, maybe it's like talking to someone that you like and opening up that conversation. To face that fear is so exhilarating. Or maybe it's the fear of doing something that you've never done before and people are encouraging you to go try it out. Face that fear because it's so exhilarating once you get to the place of overcoming that fear. So that's a little bit of leaning into Holy Week. We have some things that we've hidden from you throughout this video, and they are citations. And the citations have scriptures on them. So the citations might have a couple letters that are symbolic of a book in the Bible. And it has words and numbers on it. What we want you to do is look up that citation and send it to Tina? Sure. Yeah, send it to Tina. And it'll be worth your while if you find all the citations and you find all the biblical words behind the citation, then she'll have a prize for you. I mean, this is going to be really worth it. So if you have found these hidden citations, it's going to be worth your while to check it out. Also, I just want to say that on behalf of the friars, Friar Tom and Friar Xavier and myself, we miss you guys and we look forward to you being in the pews real soon. And I thank you for hearing me out for this opportunity to lean into Holy Week. And we have some very, very important announcements for you from your youth leaders. So why don't we turn to them so that we can cover those important announcements that we have about Good Friday and others.
Okay, well, first of all, Brenda and I miss everyone, and we're hoping soon that we can gather together, but for now, social distancing. On Good Friday, normally we do the Good Friday walk, and I guess this year it's going to be the Good Friday drive. It's going to be a caravan. So we're asking that people meet at Frenchtown in their cars, one family per car. Don't get out of your car. We're going to meet between 9 and 9:30. At 9:30 we will leave Frenchtown and head back here to Cary. And as we make it to Cary, we're going to go, and then whoever wants to can drive through the Shrine Park. And at the entrance there will be pamphlets to pass out so that you can say the prayers as you go through the Stations of the Cross. So that's the best we could do under these circumstances. And Brenda, so we're here, scan to Brenda.
We have a final prayer to sum things up. These words come from one of my favorite saints, St. Francis of Assisi, and also St. Leo the Great. Go ahead.
before
Yeah,
we
please,
go in
yeah.
this, if you don't mind. It was suggested that maybe we could do a Zoom call, one that would just allow us just to converse and talk about whatever's on your mind and give a chance to just check in on each other. So if you would, text me, you have my number, but I'll give it to you real quick, 419-396-3109, and we'll organize that Zoom call, okay? Lord, your cross is the fount of all blessings, the source of all graces, and through it, believers receive strength for weaknesses, glory for shame, life for death. St. Leo the Great.
Thank you so much for listening, and remember, we have some very important hidden citations from the Bible that you need to find in this video. And I want to end with our words from St. Francis of Assisi. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Okay, I have one more injection. My number is 419-764-0191. So if you saw the 3 verses, look those up and text to me what those verses say, and we'll enter you into a drawing that you'll be so glad you're in. All right.